Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the Lake Washington School District Town Hall informational session about our levy measures for the February 8th ballot. I have a slide deck that I'm going to share with you today, and if you have questions, if you could jot those down. We're having a bit of a technical difficulty with our actual Q&A at the end of the presentation. We'll share a link with you to be able to submit your questions so that we can make sure we get any of those answered. So do apologize for that glitch, but we'll be able to collect your questions at the end of the presentation. And so when we think about our levies, it really is all about focusing on our students, ensuring that our students have those critical supports so that they all can achieve excellence here in the district. And we know that our work is always focused on our mission and our vision as a school district. Our mission of graduating absolutely every one of our students is really what we come to work for each and every day. But it's not just about students reaching that milestone. It's about our students really accomplishing our vision of being future ready, prepared for college, the global workplace, and for personal success. We're the second largest school district in the state of Washington, serving over 30,500 students each and every day. We serve those students in 57 schools across the district, and on average, students graduate at a rate of 94% within 4 years. One of the things we're most proud of is our partnership with our community, whether that's the long history of financial support, levy support for many, many years here in the district, or our volunteerism here in the district. We have over 10,000 approved volunteers that are anxiously awaiting that opportunity to get back into our schools, serving our students in our schools. We also do polling of our communities and ask how we're doing as a district. And we consistently hear back from our community, both our families and our community members that don't have students in our schools, high levels of satisfaction with the district. As you know, and as all of us have been dealing with since early in 2020, we've been responding to the pandemic, and whether it was in February, March of 2020 when COVID-19 really came on the scene, and we had to respond to it as a district, as a community, as a country, and really across the globe, leading into school closures and doing some level of remote learning for our students. And then that really led into the 2021 school year, where the majority of our students did start in remote learning, knowing that we had to implement Microsoft Teams to ensure that our staff had the training to be able to implement that for our students, ensuring that all of our students had a device to be able to access their schooling. But also we started the school year with about 500 to 600 of our students learning in person. Those students identified knowing that they would not be able to benefit from remote learning, a number of our high needs special education students, but also our preschool students. And then in the spring, knowing that we transitioned back to in-person learning for those families that selected that, and just proud that we were able to provide actually the most in-person learning during that period of time here in the Puget Sound region. And then this year, starting with the majority of our students back in person, we did offer an online school. We have about 1,200 students learning in that school right now, managing all of the public health requirements as we continue to respond to the pandemic. And then, as you know, managing staffing shortages has been quite a tall task and continues to be even today, to ensure that our students do have that in-person learning experience, but ensuring that we do have our schools staffed appropriately. And our staff at all levels of the organization continuing to strive for excellence for our students. And these three measures that I'm going to talk about today really are about our financial stewardship. And so I just want to talk about a few key data points just to elevate our commitment to fiscal responsibility. This is the 5th straight year that we've received what's called the Meritorious Budget Award, and that's awarded for really a commitment to sound fiscal management, transparent communication in how we talk about our budget, but also what's in writing on our website. You'll find our budget to be much more readable and understandable than many district budgets, but it's also about the information that's in that document that really shows a connection between our strategic efforts and our allocation of resources. As a district, we've received clean audits for many, many years from the state of Washington. That's an annual process we go through. And in the last 6 years, we've saved our taxpayers over $43 million by refinancing outstanding bonds. And another point of pride for us is really our commitment to ensuring that we have sustainability efforts in a number of different areas across our school district, and ensuring that we're always working towards a more sustainable environment. And so whether it's being recognized by the Federal Department of Education, King County for this being a workplace for waste prevention and recycling, or whether it's being recognized, our green schools, our green teams, our student efforts, our PTSA efforts. We're proud of all of this because it does truly point to our commitment to be truly a part of our community and ensuring that we're doing our part as well. And when we think about our values that are referenced in our strategic plan, I think they're relevant here as well. When we think about students, ensuring that our students have the social, emotional, and well-being supports in place for them, because we know that translates to that next value of learning. Because when students are well and whole, they're able to access their learning in our classrooms, and ensuring that all students have access to a high quality education. Our connection, knowing that excellent schools truly are part of excellent communities. And then our commitment to transparent results in our school funding is important to us. So I want to talk about 3 specific levy measures today. First is the renewal of our educational programs and operations levy. Next is the renewal of our school technology and capital projects levy. And third is our building excellence construction levy. And so the EP&O levy truly does fill the gap between state funding and what our students need here in the district. The school technology and capital projects levy allows us to maintain our investments in both our technology and our facilities maintenance program. And finally, the building excellence construction levy allows us to add classroom space in critical places across the school district. I want to start by talking about the renewal of the educational programs and operations levy. So why do we need this? Well, 4 years ago, voters in Lake Washington approved the EP&O levy. It expires at the end of 2022, so this is a renewal of that. And what does it provide? It does truly provide funding for important programs and operations that are either not funded or are underfunded by the state. And so we know that the state provides some funding for basic education, but we also know that it does not provide fully what our students need or what our community expects of our school district. The EP&O levy actually makes up 14% of our overall budget for things such as school staff, student opportunities, and early learning. And when we think about our staff, you can see here that this levy does fund essential staff that are not fully funded by the state, while also ensuring that we can offer programs and services for our students and their needs. You can also see this levy provides funding to ensure that our staff have access to really high quality and essential training to support their work efforts. We also know that this levy provides opportunities for students, opportunities for additional learning, things such as the 7-period high school day, our summer learning programs. But this levy also provides opportunities for our students in things such as activities and athletics, music, the arts, our athletics programs. We know that these opportunities connect our students to their school communities, but that's important because that connection, we know, leads to higher levels of success in the classroom. And finally, this levy does provide funding for our early learning programs. We're so proud that it's through inclusive settings in our preschool programs with students from all developmental backgrounds that students in those programs working to develop kindergarten-ready skills. But it's not just about being ready for kindergarten. It's actually about being on a trajectory to meet our mission of graduating and our vision of being future ready here in Lake Washington. And so I've talked a bit about the gap between state funding and what our students truly need. And so I just want to talk about a few key data points here. So we know that the state does provide some funding for school nurses, but the EP&O currently provides 71% of the funding for our school nursing program. The EP&O provides 33% of the funding for our counselors, our mental health, our well-being efforts, and 32% of our special education budget. It should be noted that for our special education program, that's $21 million a year that goes to support our students with disabilities who have qualified, and this truly does provide them with that required educational program. The EP&O levy funds 71% of our highly capable programs, and those opportunities I was just referring to, 100% of the athletics and extracurricular activity costs come from the educational programs and operations levy. The next levy I want to talk about is the renewal of the school technology and capital projects levy. So why do we need this? Again, this was a levy that was approved in 2018. It does expire at the end of 2022. It provides funding for our district technology and facility upgrades and maintenance program. It should also be noted that this levy actually funds 90% of the overall funding that we need and require for both our district technology and facility upgrades budget. And so this levy does ensure that students have access to what we call 21st century skill development. We know that technology plays a key role in preparing our students to be ready for that global workplace that we know we want to prepare them for. This levy also provides technology for both our students and our staff. It also funds the training that our teachers and staff need to be able to actually implement these technologies in the classroom. And so our technology systems, we know, have to accommodate the work of teaching and learning on a day-to-day basis, but it also has to accommodate the work of running a large business. We employ over 4,500 individuals across our school district. This requires a robust infrastructure and business technology systems that we know are all in support of our teachers, our staff that are working in the teaching and learning of our students and fulfilling our core mission of educating students. I want to talk a little bit about our schools and the maintenance of those schools. This levy allows us to maintain our investments in our schools and provides for those required facility upgrades and improvements we know that any school and any site will need over time. You can see here on the left, this image does show it's a roof replacement and an HVAC equipment upgrade at Kirkland Middle School. Why is that important? Well, these types of upgrades and life cycle improvements allows us to maintain our schools, to make sure that they're safe and healthy so that our staff have a safe and healthy place to work and that our students have a safe and healthy place to learn. This levy also provides for required health and safety updates, code requirements, and those types of things that are needed on an ongoing basis. And the third levy I want to talk about is our Building Excellence Construction Levy. So why do we need this? Well, the Building Excellence Construction Levy actually replaces expiring bonds and provides funding for critical construction projects to make sure that our students have the room they need to learn. What is this? Well, it provides funding for student classroom space at the elementary, middle school, and high school level, as well as allocates funding for the acquisition of property for future schools. I want to take a moment just to recognize our Facility Advisory Committee, a group of internal and external stakeholders that got together for about 12 to 14 months, studied the situation here in Lake Washington, past data, our current data, and our projected data to develop recommendations for future facility needs. Myself, my team, our board of directors used that information as we developed a long-term plan that we're calling Building Excellence. And what you're hearing today is really just that first step in that long-term plan. And so as you may know, we are one of the fastest growing districts in the state of Washington, but we're actually the fastest growing district in King County. Since 2008, we've added 7,300 students here in our district. That's about a 31% increase since 2008. But we know we're not done growing yet. And by the year 2030, in the next 8 years, we're going to grow by another 3,500 students. So what does that mean for our schools? Well, that means that 83% of our school sites are going to be over capacity in the next 8 years, meaning they won't have the required space for teaching and learning of students. And so the specific projects that this levy will fund, it will fund space for about 2,300 students across the district. At the elementary level, a new elementary school will be located on underdeveloped land on the Redmond Elementary campus for about 24 classrooms, supporting about 550 students. At the middle school level, knowing that we have middle schools all across our district that really are getting quite full, but we've identified 3 that have specific critical needs in just the next couple of years. Finn Hill, Kirkland, Redmond middle schools all will receive additions to their school sites to provide support for a combined 600 middle school students. And at the high school level, knowing that our high schools are rapidly growing, 2 of our high schools already over 2,000 students. Lake Washington High School will be over 2,000 students in just a couple of years. And Juanita High School, just rebuilt, just enlarged. We know that they are going to reach capacity in just a couple of years as well. So we need additional space for our high school students. This levy will fund space for about 1,200 of our high school students. Location and design still being worked on. Those could be additions or smaller campuses across our district. But we know that both on the east and the west side of our district, we need additional space for our high school students. Also, this levy, as I said before, will provide funding for the acquisition of property for future schools. And one of the things anytime we think about our construction program is how do we go back to that commitment to sustainability and ensuring that our environmental impact is considered through these processes. So anytime we build a new school, we think about, can we add geothermal heating to that? We consider solar panels. When we think about classroom space, we think about natural lighting because that's good for those learning and working in those spaces, but it's also good for learning. When we can't do that, we think about the LED lighting because we know that's a reduction in energy usage. We think about landscaping, stormwater, water conservation, and actually one of our schools, Carson Elementary, has a green roof on it. And so some information about the costs of these levies. We provide this information because we do value transparency through this process. You can actually get significantly more information about all of this on our website, lwsd.org. And in the upper right-hand corner, there's a Levies 2022 tab if you want additional information or if you want to ask a question about any of this. It's important to note that the funding approved by voters in these levies actually stays here in our community and directly benefits the students here in Lake Washington. So one of the things that we've worked for many years is to maintain a stable tax rate over time for our community, knowing that tax rates do fluctuate slightly up, slightly down, but really trying to target some level of stability is important to us. As you can see here, the different measures listed here, it should be noted that the total construction rate of $1.32 does include previously approved measures, bonds and construction levies. And as we pay off old bonds, we're actually able to bring in new construction measures at that stable rate. And so the Building Excellence Construction Levy will have a rate of 52 cents per thousand of assessed value. You can see on this slide, the total combined rate for these is $2.84 compared to the current rate of $2.57. It's also important to know that the district does only collect a set dollar amount for levies. So we don't levy a rate, we actually levy a dollar amount. And as our community grows, these costs are spread out amongst more property owners and businesses within our community. And thinking of the dollars and cents of this, so a home that has an assessed value of $1 million currently paying $2,570 for Lake Washington School District levies and bonds. That same home with these 3 measures will pay $2,840. And the last set of data I want to share is really about our tax rate. We do look at our neighbors to understand our tax rate in comparison to theirs. You can see here amongst the neighbors that we share a border with, we actually have the lowest tax rate amongst these districts. When we look at our King County data, we know that we also have one of the lowest tax rates in King County. So thank you for coming today. I'm so proud of the work that our school district is doing, working truly to support our students right now. Our staff have gone over and above to make sure that our students have a quality school experience this year. Do want to remind us all that ballots are due by February 8th. Those should have arrived in your mailboxes. I think it was just this last weekend. So I'm going to transition over to another slide to be able to, let's see, provide you information. Oh, it's already up there for you to be able to submit questions. And then I'm going to pull up another document to see those questions. So one of the questions that, as we're waiting for a couple of questions to come in, one of the questions that we get asked quite often is, how did you select the projects for your construction efforts? And as we think about the long-term needs of our district, we know that we have a number of additional school sites that are going to be needed. We know that we have many portables located on our campuses. I believe it's 162 portables located on our campuses. And when you think about 162 portables, that's over 3,000 students learning in portable classrooms each and every day. But when we think about critical needs, required classroom space, we take all of our space into consideration, both our school sites and the portables that are on campus. And we identify schools that truly aren't going to have classrooms available for the students that they're going to receive. And so when we talk about the elementary, middle school, and high school capacity adds, it truly was through an evaluation of data to identify those locations across the district that truly required additional space in the short term. When we think about our elementary capacity, we just added a couple of new elementary schools in the last few years in the Redmond area, but we also know in just the next couple of years that our downtown Redmond core is going to produce many additional students just to the Redmond Elementary site. And so that's why we're locating that additional site on the Redmond Elementary campus to be able to accommodate for that. And so I'm going to invite Associate Superintendent Barbara Posthumus to join me. One of the questions I also know that we get quite often is, does the district collect more money when property values rise or when new homes or businesses are developed? The simple answer is no, but I think it's important to hear. There's some additional information that I think would be helpful. So Barbara, do you mind just sharing a response to that question?
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, that's a common question that we get. And so the district is only allowed to collect the total amount that's authorized by the voters. And so as property values rise, the district does not receive more funds. So the fixed amount by voters is shared by local property owners, and it's divided amongst individual businesses and homeowners, and based on the value of their property. So, and as new property owners and businesses come in, which happens in our district because we're growing so much, those new property owners and businesses help share the payments. So it actually reduces the amount current residents have to pay. So that's just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that. So as assessed valuation rises, the tax rate actually decreases, and new homeowners spread those costs out amongst themselves.
Great. And I'm going to ask you to stay on camera. I know I'm the one who's live right now, so the audience is hearing you but seeing me. Okay. So another, McCleary changed school funding in 2018, and so it's been hard to keep straight some of the different components. We know that the state implemented a new school property tax at that time, and there was information that potentially that was going to be increasing this next year. But we've heard that is not accurate. Could you just provide an accurate representation of what's happening with the state schools tax related to McCleary?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, so the state schools tax related to McCleary, the King County assessor actually confirmed that that rate is going down. It's actually decreasing by about 25 to 27 cents per thousand for beginning in the 2022 collection year. So, so that's great news.
Great, thank you. One of the other questions that we often get is, we thought that because of McCleary, school districts aren't allowed to fund things that are under the umbrella of what the state has defined as basic education. And one of the things we get asked about is, well, how can you allocate educational programs and operations dollars from your EP&O to special education? And so, Barbara, do you mind just providing a response about our ability to allocate EP&O funds to things that are deemed as basic education?
Yeah, basically, the legislature knows that the full cost of education is not covered by the state, and special ed is one of those programs that the full cost of that program is not covered by the state. So the legislature authorizes districts to collect local levy dollars, and they set limits on those dollars, and so districts across the state are allowed to go to their voters for local EP&O levies. And we're allowed to collect up to $2,700 per pupil, or $2.50 per thousand, the lesser of those two numbers. And for Lake Washington, the lesser is the $2,700 per pupil. So the EP&O, we are allowed to use the EP&O for things that the state does not fund.
Great, thank you so much. So at this time, we don't have any additional questions that have come in. And so I just want to say thank you for joining us today for this midday town hall session. I hope it did provide some additional information for you as you're learning about these levies. Again, if you have questions or want additional information, please go to our website, lwsd.org. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a tab, Levies 2022. That will provide you with information, FAQs, lots of different data sets. And there's also a place on that website where if you have a question, you can submit that and we'll get a timely response back to you. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.